Good afternoon, and welcome to A Beer with the Old Growler. I'm the Old Growler, Pete LaFrance, and it's good to have you with me this afternoon. It's a hot one out there. I believe it's around 83 degrees, and I don't even want to know what the humidity is. And today is it Tuesday? Yes, it's Tuesday, the 9th of June, 2020. And this is the 57th meeting of the Old Growler, Beer with the Old Growler. Yes, it is. And it is day 84 of our shelter in place, or as they call it, pause here in New York. However, things are starting to open up. They opened up a little bit yesterday, and hopefully by the middle of July. Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that right now. I was just reminded by Dave there that we have a special thing today. It's time for a beer with the Old Growler, and I'm going to celebrate with a tenant. I had a tenant yesterday, and I'm a tenant today. Well, not a tenant, but anyways, I just hope I get the number right, because sometimes I forget. But hold on, here we go. We're going to do it right. Oh yeah, there we go. That's a well poured, and it's a nice chill beer. And I got to say right away, it's happy birthday to Mary, my daughter. It's good. Cheers! Absolutely. Oh, that was worth it. That was worth it. Well, let's see. What brought you to the Old Growler? I hope you stopped by the front page of our channel, and the Old Growler was there and explained it to you. But maybe if you missed that one, let me fill you in. See, what it is here in New York City that we don't have. Hiya, Mayor. Good to see you. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's right. But anyways, as everybody probably knows, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and one of the results of the pandemic is that the restaurants, pubs, bars, and taverns of New York City have closed. And being that those are the people that I like to interview, people that were involved in my interviews before, and you can check all of them when you take a look at the playlist. We've got meeting going to brew pubs and also good beer bars. Take a look at that. But in any event, it's made it a little bit difficult to, in fact, socially enjoy a beer, which is even more important. And that's why I'm so glad that you folks are with me. Oh, that's a good one. So anyways, if you are new to the visit, well, welcome. And I'll let you know that this is a two-part production today. The first part is a beer tasting. And if you want to see how we do our beer tastings, take a look at the playlist that is called Beer, let's see, it's Tastings at the Henry Street Ale House. And that will show you what we've been doing over the last year or so. And if you want to really go back, take a look at, I think it's called Tastings at the Kitchen Table, or Kitchen Table Tastings, that playlist. That goes back even further. So we've got quite a collection of tastings. But once we got together at the ale house, it was even more fun because there were three of us at least, and this is how it went. We would take a look, and the beer cans or the beer bottles that we would have, many of them were sent to me by the brewers themselves, who dared me to try them in the to what we call meeting expectations. And how it worked: you take a look at the can. The graphics will give you some idea of their attitude. Then you read the information, as much information as there is on the can, and you say to yourself, well, what do I expect out of this beer? What am I expecting? What are they telling me is in here? And so that way you take a look at it, you go, all right, well, you look like this and you look like that, we have a little of this. But we crack it open, we make a decision, at least the three of us, and certainly, as I say, there have been times where there have been, oh, geez, we had five at once. That was a great tasting. I think they were Australians. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But in any event, Jerry, the bartender and manager, cracks it open, pours around, and we sample. And if it meets expectation, it gets a thumbs up. And if it doesn't meet expectations, it gets a thumb down. And we've had quite a few. I would say maybe 9%. Yeah, it's around 9% get the thumbs down. And some of them are for obvious reasons. Some of them were just, it was too bad that they brewed it. But in any event, today we're going to be trying Founders Unraveled IPA, and I've got a little bit of information on that. But so that's what we're going to do. That's how we work the whole thing. And then after the tasting, for those of you who hang around, as I said, I've been a journalist and an author covering the beer industry and the hospitality industry for over 35 years, and I have a few stories to tell. And I call it my life as a professional barfly. So if you hang around after the tasting, well, then you get to hear one of the stories of my life as a professional barfly. Oh, that is refreshing, I tell you. I had them yesterday, and I said the same thing. It's a brewery in Soho, I believe. I can't remember the right street, but it's at the end. You go to the end of Spring Street, all the way towards the river. Well, no, not to the end of Spring Street, actually to where 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue? Yeah. And then go up one block. It's at the corner of the Butterick building. It's a Torch and Crown. Is it Torch and Crown? It's Torch and Crown. And they've been around for, I guess a matter of a couple of, I know for sure maybe 6 months, because I went to an event that they held as they were putting the brewery together, and that was a while. It was cold weather, so that was a while ago. Well, as I said, the weather has been hot out there. Where I am sitting, it is maybe 125 yards. That's all between where I'm sitting and the end of the pedestrian walkway of the Brooklyn Bridge, and so we have been getting events walk by every day for the last 3 or 4 days, if not longer. I lose track of the weeks, but it has certainly been an experience living here, and a little distracting and a little hard to concentrate. But that's what I'm here for, is to concentrate, especially on beer. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up, guys. Dude, appreciate it. Well, I'm gonna let that. Did I pour the whole thing in? Yes, I did. Oh, wow. All right. Well, now you know how the whole operation works. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the beer of the day, the feature tasting, and some bitch. Oh, come on. I actually do a script here, have a script, and I was sure I printed a page out, and I didn't. And that's a little embarrassing. One has to, let's see if I hit it somewhere. No. All right. Well, I had a cheat sheet for this one, and I don't know where it is. So we're gonna really fly by the seats of our wherevers, and we're gonna run this exactly the way we would do it at the ale house. No cheat sheet at all. We're all gonna be surprised. Okay. As I say, Founders is I've tasted many of their beers, and they're out there. Let me just remember here. It's Grand Rapids, Michigan. Peter, you got to remember that. Grand Rapids. Founders are Grand. So Founders in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And as you can see, it's kind of an unraveling. That's a hop flower there, and it's kind of unraveling at the top. Now, what that means, I have no idea. Oh geez, did I? No, I didn't. I know this. No, we're going to do just like that. I was going to tell you. I seem to remember some of the hops that they use in here from the cheat sheet, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's do it the right way. We know it's Founders Brewing Company. We know that they, as I say, they have a reputation that I appreciate it, and it looks kind of a funky thing. It's got the hop with this kind of unraveling. Boy, a lot of us are unraveling these days, I tell you. So it's an IPA, an India Pale Ale. Now that gives me the thought that, well, it's bitter. It's got to be wicked bitter. At least traditionally IPAs, they have a international bittering unit of probably around 40, 45. But anyways, we're going to look at this. We don't know what it is yet. But so we're just going with what we've got. Juicy India Pale Ale. Okay, it's going to be cloudy. The skies are dark and gray and cloudy. Okay. Founders Brewing Company. No problem. Crack it, pour it, and love it. Okay. The government warning that if I'm pregnant, I shouldn't drink this. Protect the environment, do not litter. Standard good stuff. Brewed for U.S. Brewed for U.S. Oh, I said it's brewed for us, I guess. And does it have any? Yes, here it is. 6.6% alcohol by volume, 50 IBUs. So that's a little low, but we'll find out, won't we? Now I'm going to turn this very, very slowly over so that I can see when it was canned. And it says April 6th of this year. April 6th. May, June. That was a couple months ago. 2 months ago. April 6th, May, June. Yeah. 2 months old. All right. Now, this laptop has had a taste of beer in the past week or two, and I don't want to have a taste of beer again. That's not good. All right. As I say, I'm looking for a hazy, bitter, but well balanced, because I know that the kids at Founders, that's what I'm looking forward to. All right, let's take a look. Step back from the camera. Well, that looks pretty clear to me. This here is a clear lager. There's a clear beer. Well, all right. Well, personally, and I'm going to get to this later, but I'm not a real fan of cloudy beers. I mean, I can rate them. I can step aside and say, oh, it is well made or it's not well made. But anyways, here we go. So it's not cloudy. That's surprise number one. Now, it does have distinctive hop aromas. Now, later on, when I talk to you about when the professional barfly gets to talking, he's going to explain some of the jargon that's used. But anyways, it smells like an IPA. Yes, it is an IPA. It certainly meets expectations for the bitter or metallic hoppiness, or the metallic tang. There's different tangs. It's kind of I compare it to minerals rather than being bitter, because although who's ever licked a rock? I don't know. I've licked some granite, I guess, every once in a while, but I don't know. It's metallic rather than floral. And by floral, when you walk into a florist shop, you get that overall kind of I wouldn't say funeral home, because a funeral home is different. Those are lilies, and they have a distinctive aroma. But you go to a floral shop or walk by a flower stand, and that type of flower aroma is what you get. Well balanced, and it's got a big body. It leaves a little inside the mouth. It's not sweet, but it's not viscous. It's not thick, but it does leave its presence. Kind of like your great aunt and her perfume at Christmas time. So anyways, yeah, it does. This meets expectations. The fact that it's not cloudy, it kind of exceeds expectations as far as I'm concerned. But that's another story. Well, we'll hang out with it. It's nicer to hang out with. A little hoppy for quaffing, but it's not. It is not unpleasant for sure, and certainly not disappointing. So, anyways, okay, we've gotten to that. As I said, I don't have my cheat sheet with me on that, but you can get it in the information box below, which tells you and I distinctly remember cutting and pasting the list of the 4 hops that are in there. Simcoe, I know, is one. Oh God, and Citra, and I'm familiar with Citra. That has kind of a lemony flavor to it. But so, anyways, yes, we're gonna finish this up. Oh, we got a little more left. Does Founders Unraveled IPA meet expectations? Yes, it does. Definitely. Is the Old Growler hoping all of your beers meet expectations? That's the truth. All right. For those of you who are still with me, and another thumbs up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, because that way you'll know when all of the postings go up. And we will be no, we won't be going daily in a little while. We're going to kind of, I was about to say peter out, but being that that's who I am, it would be. Of course we're going to, but we're going to peter less, so to speak. No, don't say that. We're going to just take it easy and assimilate with the rest of New York when it starts to assimilate. So the more the city assimilates, the less live productions we'll have, but we will definitely be keeping 2 live productions a week at least. I would hope on Mondays and Fridays, because Monday would be a great way to start the week, and Friday would be a great way to finish off the week. So that's the plan right now, and I don't know how long we might stay through to the end of June, but the Old Growler website is going to be coming up pretty soon. So I've got all kinds of announcements. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Hey, we're on the international, the World Wide Web now. Tuned. It's an old term. Anyways, let's get to it. And in fact, it brings me to the topic that I would like to discuss today, and that is accurate communications. Being a writer and now a person on video, directly communicating is very important. And making sure that the words I use are what I mean. They're not to be read into, they're not to be interpreted. I want to make sure that the words that I say and that I write are as explicit as possible. Because without that, you can't really have a good understanding or good communications. And it comes down to it. In fact, it was an example today. When a beer person reviews, rates, and analyzes a beer, they say, well, as I was just doing, it's either it meets expectations or it doesn't meet expectations. That's fair enough. However, if I would have, say, if this had been this particular ale had been very cloudy, I would have, said that yes, it met expectations. The fact that it's not cloudy means that it rises a little bit above expectations. However, there's a danger there, because it comes down to, is it a good beer or a bad beer? Now, this even if it's cloudy, it can be a good beer. It's the fact that I don't like it doesn't make it bad. So when beer writers and when you hear people talking about beer and they say it's a bad beer, is it really not well made, or is it just that you don't like it? And when we begin talking like that, it does get to be uh, difficult because, say, oh, I know for sure, if someone asked me what was a really good beer sold in the United States, I would have to say Anheuser-Busch's Budweiser, because it is a consistent beer. It will always be a consistent beer. It is as well made as a Parsons Table. I mean, you can't. Uh, it's demonized because it is a large corporation. I will. That's you can do all you want. You can demonize it, but it doesn't mean that AB's Budweiser is a bad beer. It is a good beer. No arguments. You can't. You cannot like it. That's one thing. But to communicate and say that it is a bad beer is bad, is not communicating correctly, particularly here in the beer world. And on the other hand, you say the small breweries. Well, small breweries are artisans. Well, it's probably more apt that a small brewery will up a beer rather than AB, because it's so easy to up a beer when you're a small brewery. And once you do that, you've lost your, if it's say a small brewery would be 30 barrels, 100 barrels, that's a lot of beer to lose, number one. Number two, if you try and sell it, you're going to lose your reputation upside down and backwards. So that's just because it's crafted doesn't mean that it's good. Cheers. Reminds me, back when I was homebrewing, if a batch of beer didn't turn out quite right, or in fact was probably contaminated with say Brettanomyces or something like that, which is it's a microbe. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's not going to kill you, but it certainly makes the beer taste funky. And if we did get one of those batches, we would simply leave them in the bottles and put it in the back of the closet and wait a year and bring it out again and call it Belgian ale. See, so that's again, that's it was bad beer, but no, it's Belgian ale. But that you have to have tasted Belgian ale to understand what their wild yeast is like, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of tasting of different beers, which means that you really should have a good understanding, if in your language when you're talking about beer, of what the touchstones are. In particular, say stout. It's immediately a Guinness. Guinness is the keystone. There are many other good stouts out there, but Guinness is the keystone. Steam beer, brown beer, Anchor, that is the touchstone. What you have got to taste that and say, okay, this is a good beer because it meets the style. And if you want to about style, I'll put down in the information box below the address to the American Brewers Association, the Brewers Association, and the American Homebrewers Association, and there's what do they call themselves? The Cicerones out of the Midwest, and which are beer geeks, and they have lists of exactly what each style should taste like. For British ale, Bass. For Canadian lager, Molson Canadian, and as I said, for American lager, definitely Budweiser. And so that way you get used to the flavors. You get to learn the flavors. Now, one of the difficult things about communicating in beer and on these types of beer reviews, and in the writing that I did about beer, particularly in the 2 books, was jargon. There's always a lot of jargon, and it's well, I just mentioned floral before. What is floral? I explained it to you. The quickest way to explain it, but to someone who knows or has awareness of hops aroma, floral would mean a particular hop, and I think it would. A British hop, Kent Golding, has, when you take a hop, well, I'll show you right here. This is a stylized hop flower, and it comes about that size, and it looks like a little teeny pine cone, and it has the resin that's in it is a yellow resin. And when you take the pine cone and rub it between your hands and you sniff the aroma, that is the lupulin and humulin that comes out of those, the two oils that cause both aromatics and flavor. And so that's what you're dealing with. Now, I've just used a lot of jargon right there. And it would be a lot, using jargon is shorthand for whatever organization you happen to be in. If you're in the restaurant industry, if you're in the weeds, or if you got really slammed and you're in the weeds, that means you have every table full, you've got people waiting out the door and halfway down the block, and you're slowly running out of food. That's what that means. However, if you'd say, you know, you got slammed and you were in the weeds and you're a car driver, or somebody who walks trails, you'd say you ran into somebody and you ended up, you know, words are weird. But that is the definition of jargon. And also, beer tastings, we use a barnyard. Now, I went to school in Vermont, so I know what a barnyard smells like. And when you tell me that a beer's got a barnyard smell, I would use the word fecal. And of course, you know, that's pretty much what it is. Except that in some cases, it's not a bad thing. And yet, if someone hears that about a beer and they don't understand the jargon, and they don't understand that it's a French farmhouse beer and it's supposed to smell that way, well, there you go. Horse blanket, there's another one. Now, I don't know many people who know what a horse blanket smells like, but again, I was in rural Vermont, so I do. And wet dog is as close as I can get to it, and most folks at least have smelled a wet dog. But those are the words. And what's interesting is that you use these words, particularly in beer tastings. We do a rather simplified tasting here, but in most areas, most beer geeks, they get together, they do serious beer tastings. It's you know, you make sure that have a color chart. You've got a color chart. You know exactly how many international bittering units it is, what the original gravity was, which means how much, there you go, original gravity, how much sugar was in the wort meaning stuff that the beer becomes before it gets boiled with the hops. You sit there and you just dissect it. I mean, you really do. And you have all the jargon, and you're sitting there being very studious about it. That's what it is. And by using words, you can say, oh, well, that has a bit of ginger to it and some pineapple. And people will start in their minds, they'll start going, do I taste it? Do I taste it? So in using those words, you can guide people. And that's particularly helpful if you're a major brewer and you're holding tastings and you're trying to convince people that your beer tastes good. You can do that very well. Similar to a food service person who's asking you, well, I remember in restaurants, yes, I do. They'd come up to you, and, oh, sir, you ordered the steak, very good, and you're nodding your head. You see, that's communicating as well as using words. But when people use words to describe things, they have a tendency to, I wouldn't say get carried away, but that's about it. There was a beer tasting that went on up in Connecticut, many years ago, and I'm thinking 15, 20. That was put together by a bunch of journalists and beer geeks that these kids knew their stuff. And the fellow who was running the tasting, I believe it was Pilsners that we were tasting, and he brought out 34 Pilsners. We tasted the Pilsner, and that's so very, no, that's not very good. And then another one came out, and they're going, oh, well, this is very light. Oh, very, very light. It's got some essences in it. And I taste it, and I said, guys, but this isn't a beer. Oh no, this is very. Well, no. I said, yeah, no. They were talking about, and I tasted it. I trusted my senses, and I said, no, this is not a beer. And so when Keith came out, the fellow that was running the show came out, and he asked, for the charts, because you keep tasting charts. There's all kinds of different notations that you make. So he came out and asked for the charts, and particularly beer number X, we'll call it. And I said to Keith, I said, that's not a freaking beer. I said, that's it. He says, you know something? And he holds it up, and I think it was a Caliber or one of those non-alcohol beers. Jargon can lead you, words can lead you, but trust your senses. That that is the real key there. It's you got to trust your senses, but you have to be able to communicate what you're feeling. And too often words get muddled and meanings get misunderstood. And as a writer, I'm constantly wrestling with words and their meanings, particularly on these tapes. And being unedited right now, it makes it even more interesting in using particular words, buzzwords, etc. But what I have learned from beer is, and my writing about beer, is the importance of the specificity of words and being able to truly explain things. A person that I think that I would love to have first of all have met, and second of all, I watch his lectures. But Richard Feynman, the physicist, he is able to explain quantum dynamics to somebody as less scientific than could possibly be me. He can explain his lectures. He explains to me, and I can understand them because he uses vocabulary that I understand. He doesn't get lost in the jargon. It's just it's an incredible thing. So for those of you who are into words and into really communicating and understanding things like that, I would highly suggest watching the lectures of Richard Feynman. Even if you don't like physics, he's an amazing speaker. Okay, well, I've done my communicating, I hope. I thank you all for being here, especially on a hot day like today. You should be out there in the sun, or social distancing in the sun, I guess. Yeah, the Unraveled IPA is it's a keeper, but I don't know. I'm gonna switch back to the good old-fashioned lager. And with that, I thank you all for being here. For those of you who are watching on a later date, please subscribe, and even better, click on that alert bell, and that way you'll know when all of the productions coming out of the Old Growler go hot. Wishing all of you a good day, a good night, a good afternoon, a good evening, wherever you are. Cheers.